Good morning and welcome to Northern Light Spiritual Center. My name is Reverend Vaughan Amaré, and I am here today with Reverend Michael Amaré. Michael is taking care of all of the technical details. The fact that you have us on Facebook, the fact that you have us on Zoom is all thanks to Reverend Michael's patience and wading through some technological challenges that present themselves. We at Northern Light Spiritual Center are a community of people dedicated to using spiritual and practical principles to create lives we want to live. Northern Light Spiritual Center offers spiritual and practical tools to make positive changes in our lives. We at Northern Light Spiritual Center acknowledge our presence here on the traditional and unceded lands of the first people of Seattle, the Duwamish and coastal Salish peoples. These people are still here, and we join with them in how they continue to honor and bring to light their ancient heritage. We seek to resist the erasure of indigenous histories as we work towards honoring and inviting the truth. Please join me for our opening song, In This Very Room, by Ron and Carol Harris. In this very room, there's quite enough love for all the world. And in this very room, there's quite enough joy for all the world. And there's quite enough peace and quite enough power to walk through our every fear. For Spirit, sweet Spirit, is in this very room. In this very room. Good morning. Welcome to a brisk November, first Sunday in November. This is the time that we set aside each Sunday for a brief moment to stop, just stop and center ourselves, allowing ourselves to release everything that has come before this moment. All worries, woes, frustrations, anxieties. As Reverend Vaughan said about the technical issues, I've released them now. They're gone. I can pick them up later if I choose to. And just like each of us can pick up any of these things that are troubling us, if we choose to, or we can just permanently let them go. And so in this moment, I would just invite us to begin by taking about 3 nice, deep, cleansing breaths. So breathing in and releasing. Another breath in and release. One more. Breathe in and release.
month's theme is on enjoying the view, appreciating the view on high, the view from the mountaintop, whatever way you want to put it. But it's about the view. And immediately, when I was thinking of it yesterday, the first thing that came to mind was 10 years ago when we did a tandem jump in 14,500 feet. And that view, when you left the plane and you're just basically plummeting to earth, that view, that beauty, that in the moment, that's the thing, being in the moment. And also, when I went to Egypt and we were on top of Mount Sinai for sunset, that view, to me, was like the top of the world. So I just want to invite us to go within and to check into a place where we find a view that feeds us, a view that allows us to just be in that present moment. Too many times we let things run around in our minds and we're not present. And so find that spot, that perfect spot, and allow yourself to be in it right here and right now. Yourself to enjoy that quiet, peaceful sense of being. Just remember, whenever you find yourself anxious or troubled, step back into this place, slip into this view, this peaceful, quiet view, and be in that moment. And allow yourself to just allow things to fade away. You have the power to do this. It's just the fact that we need to remember that we have the power and the ability to step into that quiet, peaceful view and be in the moment. And so when you're ready, open your eyes. And so it is. Today's reading comes from a site on the internet. It's by Janef Navalon, and it's called Higher Consciousness, the Epic Guide to Your Higher Self. Have you always felt that there is something bigger than yourself? An energy or consciousness that surpasses every material and immaterial thing in the world. You may be on the path to experiencing your higher consciousness. What is higher consciousness? It can be difficult to define something only a few people manage to attain in their lifetime. Even more frustrating is the human tendency to define something as is and put it in boxes. The School of Life explains it more aptly. As human beings, we spend most of our lives functioning in the states of lower consciousness, where what we are principally concerned with is ourselves, our survival, and our own success, narrowly defined. However, at rare moments, when there are no threats or demands upon us, perhaps late at night or early in the morning, when our bodies and passions are comfortable and calm, we have the privilege of being able to access the higher mind, what neuroscientists call a neurocortex, the seat of imagination, empathy, and impartial judgment. We loosen our hold on our own egos and ascend to a less biased and more universal perspective, casting off a little of the customary anxious self-justification and brittle pride. In such states, the mind moves beyond its particular self-interest and cravings. It's an astonishing gradual evolution to develop the ability to explain others' actions by their distress, rather than simply in terms of how it affects us. We perceive that the appropriate response to humanity is not fear, cynicism, or aggression, but always, when we can manage it, love. At such moments, the world reveals itself as quite a different place, a place of suffering and misguided effort, full of people striving to be heard and lashing out against others, but also a place of tenderness and longing, beauty, and touching vulnerability. The fitting response is universal sympathy and kindness. The 6 stages of higher consciousness. Mary O'Malley, a certified counselor and author of Belonging to Life, believes that there are 6 levels of higher consciousness. Higher consciousness is a state of elevated awareness and perception in which a person has a deeper understanding of the nature of reality, the self, and various spiritual aspects of life that play an important role in one's personal evolution and psychological development. The 6 stages of higher consciousness. Albert Einstein said, no problem can be solved from the same level of consciousness that created it. Number 1 is, life happens to you. How many times have you felt that you're simply going through the motions, as if life is just happening to you, instead of living life on your own terms? So you stay caught in the head, finding yourself lost in your storyteller that resists, reacts, defends, and explains, hoping to figure everything out. It generally does absolutely anything except to be open to life, right here and right now. Number 2 is, life happens by you. This is the first real stage to higher consciousness. O'Malley says that when it becomes too uncomfortable to live with this such a powerlessness, that's a word, you evolve into the belief that life is happening by you. Rather than being a victim to life, you believe you can control it. There can be a greater feeling of personal power in this level of consciousness. She explains, goals are where you use your mind to try to make things be the way you want them. With intentions, you work with feelings, what you want to generate. Instead of creating your own reality, simply think of it as showing up for reality that exists. Number 3 is life happened in you. When you successfully stop trying to control your life, interesting, you begin to realize one profound thing. Life is not to be controlled. It's not even made. It's something you just listen to. Life begins to happen beautifully when you open up to it. Number 4, life happens for you. The 4th stage to higher consciousness may be the most challenging phase yet. Why? It's because it's about trust. It's hard because you will have to let go of your need to control and just trust that there is a reason for everything. You can choose to believe that everything has a purpose, a meaning, and it's going to lead to you something or somewhere beautiful. Number 5, life happens through you. You've overcome the life-changing stage of accepting life as it is. Now it's all about feeling it. This is perhaps the gentlest and most peaceful part of your journey to higher consciousness. Why? Because it's all about gratitude. This stage of your awakening is about accepting that you can't control life. Yes, but it's okay. Life knows what it's doing. And number 6 is life is you. You are not in the universe. You are the universe, an intrinsic part of it. Ultimately, you are not a person, but a focal point where the universe is becoming conscious of itself. What an amazing miracle. And that was by Eckhart Tolle. Your journey was about questioning your existence, challenging it, and coming to terms with what you found. The last 2 stages of higher consciousness, however, is like coming home to Eden. It's like a veil has been taken off, and now you can truly see and feel without questioning it, and yet with a deeper understanding of everything. There's some closing thoughts to this is, why is a higher consciousness essential for meaningful life? Your consciousness is a powerful thing, yet it can be stagnant if left untapped. Your perception benefits, and everything in between influences your reality, but it also creates it. Without higher consciousness, we are like mechanical beings running simply on survival without thought and enlightenment. This is why higher consciousness is essential to purpose and happiness. Without it, you will never discover the true nature of being, the real you, the real reality of life and of yourself. Without it, your existence will mean nothing. Now you just take in a deep breath. It's been a lot. Before you move on to the next part of your day, stop for a moment and take a deep breath. By stopping to take that deep breath, your heart rate slows and more oxygen enters your bloodstream. This communicates to your brain to relax. Taking a deep breath has the potential to to improve the quality of your day. There's a free, never mind. So this is, taking a deep breath has the potential to improve the quality of your day. And so it is.
So it is.
And I want you to do something. Now Puppy has to get down.
So the words to this month's chant are, I'm grateful for what brought me here. I'm grateful for all I achieve. I'm grateful for what taught me here. I'm grateful for what I received. I give thanks for the view from here. I give thanks for the truth right here. I give thanks for what's clear, new and clear. I give thanks for the truth right here. I'm grateful for what brought me here. I'm grateful for all I achieve. I'm grateful for what taught me here. I'm grateful for what I received. I give thanks for the view from here. I give thanks for the truth right here. I give thanks for what's new and clear. I give thanks for what's true right here. Now you and you're grateful for what brought you here. You're grateful for all you achieve. You're grateful for what taught you here. You're grateful for what you received. You give thanks for the view from here. You give thanks for the truth right here. You give thanks for what's new and clear. You give thanks for the truth right here. Now we're grateful for what brought us here. We're grateful for all we achieve. We're grateful for what taught us here. We're grateful for what we receive. We give thanks for the view from here. We give thanks for the truth right here. We give thanks for what's new and clear. We give thanks for the truth right here. And back to I. Now really feel it this time. I'm grateful for what brought me here. I'm grateful for all I achieved. I'm grateful for what taught me here. I'm grateful for what I received. I give thanks for the view from here. I give thanks for the truth right here. I give thanks for what's new and clear. I give thanks for the truth right here.
My head on my chest, wandering face down in this wilderness. My eyes on the ground, burden is heavy with shame so profound now. Your hand on my cheek, lifting my head and restoring my peace. You're reminding me, oh, where does my help come from? It's you alone, you alone. Oh, where does my help come from? It's you alone, you alone. Oh my God, yeah. You never sleep, you are keeping my feet, yeah, covered by your hand. I know you are here in the midst of my need. Oh, where does my help come from? It's you alone, you alone. Oh, where does my help come from? It's you alone, you alone. I will lift my eyes to the heavens, no matter what's surrounding me. I will lift my eyes to the heavens, no matter what's surrounding me. Yeah. It's you alone, you alone, you alone. And I will lift my eyes to the heavens, no matter what's surrounding me. And I will lift my eyes to the heavens, no matter what's surrounding me. Yeah, yeah. I will keep my eyes on the heavens. In darkness, my soul will see. Yeah, I will keep my eyes on the heavens, no matter what's surrounding me. Yeah. It's you alone, you alone, you alone.
That's an adaptation of the Psalm 121, the Song of Ascent. And it's moved on to something else, even though I told it to stop. So there, now. I told it to stop, but it just wanted more. So you got that melodic moment. I was saying that was from it was based on Psalm 121. I lift up my eyes to the mountains. From where does my help come? My help comes from the One, the maker of heaven and earth. The One who will not let our feet slip. The One who watches over us will not slumber. Indeed, the One who watches over Israel will neither slumber nor sleep. The One watches over us. The One is our shade at our right hands. The sun will not harm us by day, nor the moon by night. The One will keep us from all harm. The one will watch over our lives. The one will watch over our coming and going, both now and forevermore. The person who became King David is credited with those words. And those words came about at a time when a dear friend of David had died, had passed away. Now, I don't know about any of you, but I know that the events that have been happening in the world can feel very momentous. They can feel like a weight. They can feel like a burden. They can feel like we are without help. We are without solution. There is so much conflict. Things that we can't even begin to imagine. Why is there a conflict here? And yet there's a conflict. This week there were a couple of trials that got started. A young man drove from his home with a semi-automatic rifle and killed 3 people, 2 people, and wounded a 3rd person. But the way the case is being presented, it was all self-defense. It was all because these other people were going to hurt him. And yet, he was the one that drove all that way with a semi-automatic rifle with the intent of protecting property over protecting people's lives. There's another trial where the defense is claiming that the people made a citizen's arrest, and that in making a citizen's arrest, they just happened to kill Amaré James. That the claim is that that they were going to make a citizen's arrest, and it's because there was this threat from Amaré James that he ended up dead. So they killed themselves. They killed him, the 3 people, on videotape for self-defense. Except when you look at it, you can't see that Amaré James ever did anything threatening. He was running away. There is so much going on with respect to vaccinations, about how to be safe, how to return to some semblance of normal, some way of going out into the world without the risk of having people come down with an infection where they either die or they have ongoing lifelong symptoms and lifelong disabilities. And yet there is all of this argumentation about ostensibly this danger of vaccinations, which vaccinations have been in effect since George Washington had his soldiers in the 1770s take vaccinations to keep safe. Vaccinations are not something radical or new. For years and years, schools have monitored the degree to which children are vaccinated, because the notion was that school needed to be a place where people were safe, where people would not be put at risk of getting sicker. So in the midst of all of this seemingly crazy conflict that's out there in the world, we can look at it and say, why is that happening? But we can also perhaps take a moment and reflect. What are the crazy conflicts that I have going on in my own life? So for a moment, I'm just going to ask us to get still for a moment, and as we come to a place of stillness, to think about, where is it that we find ourselves conflicted? Where is it that even though we know things should be a certain way, We don't let it show up that way. And as we quiet and as we let ourselves experience that, we may note a quickening of our heartbeats. We may note a line of argumentation, a line of defense. But I'm like that because I think that I feel that because whenever we find ourselves making excuses, either shared or private, that can cue us that what is happening in the world that's crazy all around us isn't just happening there, it's happening within the world of our own lives, within the world of our own hearts. And we have the opportunity to just pay attention to that. You'll probably note that one of my big all-time messages is just wake up and pay attention. Just become present to what's happening. And there are 3 practices that we can engage in when we have that. There are 3 G's. There's goals, there's gratitude, and there's going on. And each of these 3 G's are actually actions we can take. And they're ways that we can orient ourselves to move through the world. There are things that are taught with the Science of Mind teachings from Ernest Holmes. There's a global vision. And in this global vision, it proposes this notion. We envision humanity waking to its spiritual magnificence and discovering the creative power of thought. A world where every person discovers their own personal power and ability to create an individual life that works within a world that works for everyone. I propose pairing that notion with the idea that the highest divinity and the innermost divinity is one. It isn't that there's a divine of all creation. There isn't that which we raise our eyes to. There's also that to which we look within and find that the divine is in all places, in all times, and that includes us. Just as I asked us to consider, well, where do I find my own conflicts? Where do I find my own crazy thinking taking me? Where do my own crazy feelings take me? I ask us to consider and to go to that notion of the vastness of the divine is within us. If we stop for a moment and just feel that, what happens? Just take a moment and let ourselves become present to that. That the power that generated all of the universe is the very same power that is sustaining us moment by moment, giving rise to this breath, giving rise to our thoughts, to our feelings, to our love. Giving rise to our choice to engage with kindness. Science of Mind also teaches that we can turn away from appearances in any situation. It doesn't mean that we deny that that situation is there. But we can spend less of our time focusing on that. And we can spend more time focusing on spiritual truth. So when we look and say, what is happening? And question that, our attention on that question, our attention on that heartache. I've told you the story about when I first learned skiing. I ended up on my face a whole lot until the ski instructor told me that you go where you're looking. And I was so nervous up on those ski slopes the first time. And slopes is really an exaggeration. Bunny Hill would be an exaggeration. It was no more than the block that I live on down another block to a hill. I mean, a block would be, it was smaller than that block. And yet up on that hill, up on that bunny hill, I would fall and fall and fall. And it took the instructor to say, where you're looking is where you're going. So stop looking down at your feet all the time, because that's where you end up. I mean, we know it when we're driving a car. Our car goes where we're looking. We stop paying attention to the fact we're driving. We're looking at that person. And there we go. The car follows where we look. That's one of the things we learn, that we have to think about where we look. Psalm 21 tells us to set our sights on the heights. Look up to the hills. One of the things in Hebrew scripture was this evolution of how humanity thought about itself. At the beginning of those stories, at the beginning of Genesis, which is established as the beginning, we all know technically that it wasn't Genesis that was the first book. That was a add-on. The first was the story of Israel getting out of Egypt. But the fiction that got created, the story that got created was, it starts in a garden. And the ending of the story is that it evolves into a city. And frequently the image is a city on a hill. How do we create ourselves as a city on a hill? In the song, there's that notion of that intimacy, that the creator, that the maker of heaven and earth will put its hand on our cheek, and that it will hold us in the midst of our despair. And for me, there's something really beautiful about that sense of intimacy, about that sense of closeness. While we may have times where we question all of the relationships that we had and all of the ways we showed up with our parents and our parents showed up with us. I mean, there's years of worth of therapy that can be captured in those notions about how we interacted with our biological mother and our biological father. And yet there is something about that being held. There's something about the image of a mother or a father holding their infant child that just establishes a sense of peace, a sense of, yes, that is good. There's something so reassuring about that hold. Can we let ourselves return our vision to that height? That height, the notion of a city is that it's not just this beautiful place, but it's a place that's constructed. It's a place that is shared. It's a place that is co-created. There are neighbors and there are people we don't know that are in the city. And it is the full spectrum of life and vitality. A lot of cities have built a garden within it, but it's more than just the garden. It's the whole interactions, and it's the movement, and it's the way that so much happens within the city. What if, when we're looking to the heights, what if that intimate connection with the one who makes all is equally available in the one showing up as us, as the one showing up as our neighbor, as the one showing up as our spouse, as the one showing up as our children, as the one showing up as our customers, as the one showing up as the people who serve us, the people we serve? What if the one shows up as the many? What if that moment of intimacy is so much more available? Now, I talked about three things, 3 G's: goals, gratitude, and going on. Sometimes we always set goals. We've always set goals from the time that we're little. You know, and sometimes it's goals that we've set for ourselves. Sometimes it's goals put on us. There is an inclination to speak. And I believe that for the people here, and I believe for the people that are seeing this, there was probably some pleasure that our parents had when we learned to speak. When we were speaking rather than simply whining or crying or giggling. That notion of saying someone else's name. That notion of identifying ourselves. That notion of putting words together and creating a new world with those new words. Putting words together has been called prayer. It's been called magic. It's been called spell work. It's been called creativity. Putting words together. I can't imagine that each of us woke up when we were babies and said, my goal is to speak. But it's a goal that we may have acquired. Who among us hasn't wanted to find a way to speak more clearly at some point in our lives? So sometimes these goals are put on us. Sometimes we expand them. Sometimes goals just happen and we're just responding to them and we don't really stop and think about them. We don't say, yes, this is my goal. If anybody went to school, did you set up a goal that you wanted to do well on an assignment? That you wanted to understand a book that you read? That you wanted to be able to read the book? That you wanted to figure out how to maybe put it in action? we may not realize it, but so many times we do have goals, and we never realized we created those goals because we just kind of did it automatically. We were on autopilot. One of the things that was really astounding to me when I first learned the Science of Mind teachings was the notion that the action of the law acted upon our thoughts and it made it into my reality. It was so much easier to think of myself as a victim of circumstances. So much easier to just complain. Oh, I don't like how this turned out. Oh, this is terrible. And the more whining and complaining, often that would bring about more whining and complaining. Because the people that were listening to my whining and complaining, were they stopping me and saying, stop it? You know, I've done this before. I've talked about that Bob Newhart episode where, as the psychiatrist, the woman comes to him and says, Doctor, I really have a problem and I need you to help me through it. And he's like, I could do that in one session. In fact, I could do it in 5 minutes. Well, doctor, okay, here's my problem. I just can't leave the house. And Bob Newhart just said, well, the solution is stop it. Just stop it. And she's like, but you don't understand. I don't care. I don't need the story. Just stop it. But you see, I don't care that you've always done it in the past. I don't care that I'm always going to do it in the future. Stop it. Sometimes our goals are performative. She was just in this space of, I have this huge problem. I can't leave my house. And it's such a beautiful story. And there's so much sympathy that it generates. And the outcome of this, while it's painful, there's a part of it I love. I know that there have definitely been things that I loved that were painful. And I held on to them because it was so great to have an avenue of sympathy. But I'll go back to the advice from Bob Newhart, stop it. My bet is that the experience for which I was receiving sympathy was never as good as when I didn't need sympathy. As Michael described in his reading, when there was a sense of greater personal power, when there was a sense of life flowing through me, and I was along for the ride. That experience was actually coined by a Hungarian psychologist named Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, and he described it first as something called the flow. And I know we've all had that flow experience where we are so into what we're doing, we lose any sense of time. We lose any sense of connection. We are one with that process. Michael referred to that in the skydiving. You can't be anywhere else when you're falling at 32 miles per hour or 32 miles per second and the acceleration is happening. It's not like, I'm wondering what I'm going to have for lunch while I'm falling. I wonder what I should put on my grocery list. You are just in the rush of the air. There's also probably a part, I know there was a part for me, maybe not for Michael, but I sure hope the parachute will work. I sure hope that this acceleration will stop at some point or will slow down. Because while this is thrilling, there's also that. We can be so absorbed. Now, so I just want us to remember that the action of the law will always fulfill our goals, whether they're conscious or unconscious. And no matter how grumpily we're like, well, I wish it didn't work on the unconscious. I just wish it worked on the conscious. That's one of the points. It's so that we can wake up to what is conscious and unconscious. One of the people that I went through practitioner studies with, and one of the people with whom I went through ministerial school with, he said he had mastered unconscious manifestation with perfection. He could come down with a sickness like that. He imagined it and then it happened. And he reflected on the fact that he was so skilled at manifesting all of these unconscious things. And he used that as evidence for why this process worked, for why to become more conscious rather than less conscious. Why be subjected to, and why let ourselves be subject to our unconscious thoughts, feelings, decisions? What happens when we choose to be more conscious? So we're always setting goals. Let's make our goals more conscious. Our practitioner, Stephanie Scranton, is a master of this. She is developing a business for creating children's clothes. And this process is part of that conscious manifestation. I mean, the beauty of starting with children is you hook them up so early with beauty and comfort and ease. And what parent doesn't love to see their child looking their best and feeling their best? And it's easy to put on their clothes, and it's easy to take them off when they need to be taken off. What a beautiful contribution to the world that a whole new generation of little ones are embodying beauty, are embodying creativity, are embodying something that has never been before. And that's coming because Stephanie is conscious and awake, and she's making a choice, and she becomes an example for all of us. And we get to say, I know that person. That person is someone I know, and that person is someone who has led me, and it's someone who has inspired me, and it's someone who has helped me understand new ways to be. So, there we have it with goals. We're always making them whether we know we are or not. Let's just spend some more time paying attention and knowing what we're knowing. The second point is gratitude. The word for this month is breathe in the view. Appreciate and honor what has happened and what is happening. What a difference when we engage in the world with a sense of gratitude. Yes, we may not love everything. We may not feel thankful consciously for everything, but what turns around if we take on and adopt those feelings of gratitude? Okay, it's achy. I don't like that. I'm feeling achy this morning. That's a goal. It's like, do we want to stick with our feeling achy, or do we step up and say, thank the Lord, thank baby Jesus, thank baby Moses, thank baby Buddha that I am alive today and that I'm still breathing? How often do we just stop and recognize that? How often do we just breathe in and say, oh my gosh, I'm breathing? I don't have to be like sending a thank you letter to my lungs for their work, but they're doing it. And how many times do we just take that for granted? I'm betting everybody got out of bed this morning. How grateful are we that we were able to get out of bed? That we were able to move? And again, we may not be able to move in the same way we moved 10 years ago, 20 years ago. We set our own obstacles to our gratitude. Again, I'm going to take on Bob Newhart and say, stop it. Let us simply take this moment, breathe in, and feel gratitude for being able to breathe in. How often do we get to just feel gratitude for the song, for the beat, for the voices coming together the way they did, for the artistry, if you saw it, of the words and the pictures. To think of all of the labor and effort that went into that song. What it took to put those chords together. What it took to put those different instruments together. What it took to find the beat on the drum. What it took to find the harmony between the man's voice and the woman's voice. When we stop and just think about and feel about what it is that we've encountered, how easy is it to feel gratitude? Michael has said countless times about how much music is a spiritual practice for him. That turning on music becomes a way to turn the whole day around. And in that spiritual practice, the automatic thing that is also going on is there's gratitude. Gratitude that there's this song list that he can choose from. That there's all of this work that has gone into creating this. I think back to high school when I heard one of my teachers introduce the song by the Police, "Every step you take, every move you make, every vow you break, I'll be watching you." But put it in the context of what if this is the divine that is constantly watching every step. It's not all that different from Psalm 21. That there is this presence. And that teacher inspired me and made me grateful that any song can become a place of worship. How might I hear thanks and praise in more as I go through my day? Michael talked about ways of lifting our consciousness, lifting it from the world is happening to me, wah, 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 to life is me. How do we deliberately choose to recognize that we can stop at any moment and we can feel gratitude? We can find something for which to feel gratitude no matter what is happening around us, no matter what is happening to us. On the train ride to Auschwitz, one of the prisoners found gratitude in the pink light of the sunrise coming through the cracks in the train. And that gratitude changed the whole experience. How many of of us have really come up against those kinds of struggles. That we might deliberately choose to withhold the capacity to feel gratitude. And what does it cost us to do that? Gratitude is absolutely free. It's available 24/7. Okay, so we've talked about goals. We all have them, we all make them, we do it all the time. We may not do it consciously, but we can become more conscious about them. We talked about gratitude. The last thing is going on. Okay, we set goals and we arrive there. How often do we think that if I get this, if this happens, my life is perfect? And we get our goal, and sometimes there's a sense of letdown. There's a sense of, okay, I got this. Kathy Ann Lewis, the minister from Center for Spiritual Living in Seattle, talked about the goal of wanting a Corvette. And she got her Corvette. And after she got her Corvette, she realized that that wasn't the last thing she ever wanted. It didn't complete her life. And in realizing it, that wasn't the end of everything that she would ever want, she was able to look back and consider more about that goal. One of the things that she taught about was that really it wasn't about the thing, it was about what that thing represented. That one of the things was realizing that this was about a greater expression of power. And the engine on that car and the sleekness of the car was all about an expression of something that she had not had before, or that she wasn't conscious of having before. And she taught about being able to go on after achieving that goal. Sometimes we may worry that we get our goal and that we're not being very, gracious about it, or we're not being respectful of reaching that goal if we go on. But the fact is that the journey keeps going. We achieve our goals, and our goals are our new starting place. Where we end when we met our goal, when our goal has met us, when we've gotten to the bottom of the bunny hill and we didn't fall, was that we have the opportunity with that experience to make a new goal. And instead of being like, oh, I've met my goal, I have arrived in nirvana, I am happy and settled. There's actually a teaching in Buddhism. There are these individuals whose life goal is, I want to meet enlightenment. I want to become an enlightened being. Now, anybody here, what would it be like to be enlightened? To have a sense of just oneness with the universe? And in this teaching of Buddhism, there are people who have experienced that enlightenment, but then they come back. They're called bodhisattvas. These are the people who have met that goal of enlightenment, but then they're like, wait, there's more to it than just my being enlightened. There's my being deliberate about helping other people obtain their own enlightenment. Rather than seeing our goals as this destination, and that's the ending point, this teaching, the science of mind teaching, the science of heart teaching, is that we make our goal, but then it's this spiral dynamic. It's this thing that keeps going. Yes, we've met this goal, but now we can set a new goal. Based on where we are now, there's more that we can become. There's more that we can do. There's a greatness that we may not have been able to imagine because our goal didn't give us that big a point of view. The view from here, once we've achieved the goals that we've wanted, can help us see a whole new set of goals. One of the books that inspired me as an adolescent was The Last Battle by C.S. Lewis. And the inspiration in this book was that in the story of Narnia that C.S. Lewis created, he had established a metaphor for ultimate enlightenment, for ultimate achievement. And in The Last Battle, he blew that metaphor away. The new metaphor was something even bigger than what he had originally seen. In The Last Battle, what happens is that all of the worlds, all of the places where consciousness occurred, are all leading to another place. So conflicting religions that had been at war with each other for generations. My God is this, my God is this. My highest and best is this, my highest and best is this. That as we spiral up, they were all coming together as a single, amazing, glorious place. And any conflict simply melted away because it didn't have to lead to just one specific place. That it was deeper and higher. We can deliberately choose to go on. We can deliberately choose to feel our goal with gratitude. We can deliberately choose to say, this new vantage point lets me take on new challenges. So I'm just going to invite us one more time, just like I had invited us to pause for a moment and to think about the goals that we have, and I invited us to take a moment and feel gratitude. I invite us to think about and to feel where is it that we want to go on. Take a deep breath in. Let our hearts soften. Let our hearts melt with the one who watches us, the one who's as close as our shadow. And let ourselves open to something bigger, to something deeper. Let us be grateful for what it is that we have achieved and received. and let us drop our fear that if we move on, we lose anything, that in fact, that we are bigger than we ever imagined, that we have the power of the universe. There's an image from the story of what's called Doctor Who. And the doctor travels in something called the TARDIS. And the thing that people usually comment on is that it's smaller on the outside and that it's bigger on the inside. And that metaphor is for each of us. We are so much bigger on the inside than we can ever imagine. That there is a vastness to us. And that vastness is the divine life that lives as each of us. And it is ever and ever expanding. So just touch that for a moment. And as we touch on that, we know that we can go further. We can go on. We can use our goals. We can feel gratitude. And we can go on the vastness that each of us are. And so I conclude saying, Amen, Ashe, and so it is.
Thank you, Reverend Vaughan, for this looking up and looking out and looking in. Just that taking that time to being still and to look within, to allow ourselves to find the answers that we need, to set the goals, because we know the answers. Sometimes we don't like the answers, because I know there are times I do not like the answers. But we know them. And if we're confused, we can always ask for clarification. You know, I need to know more. I need to be clearer. Give me more, you know. Or like in Oliver, might I have more, you know. So I give thanks for your talk today. And I don't know if anybody's heard a little tippy tapping of little feet, but we have a little presence here in the room. She had to come with us today because she couldn't stay at home. And with that, I just give thanks. And this is November is noted for the month of gratitude, the month of Thanksgiving, which I believe we should have, 365 days a year to be grateful, to be thankful. Just to be alive, just to be able to move and wake up in my right mind. Sometimes I wonder if it's my right mind, but nevertheless. And so I want to give thanks for everyone here, and we are this year again, this is like our 10th year or something like that of donating Thanksgiving meals for families that are in need of them. We've chosen 4 families this year. Don't know who they're going to be. So if you would care to donate for that or for anything else, you can go to our website, northernlightsspiritualcenter.com. There's a donate button. Or you could mail a check here. Whatever way you want to donate. Because we try to give back to the community and to particularly those in need. And so I give thanks for this day. I give thanks for this sacred space, and the sacred space where each and every one of you are. Because your space is sacred. It is holy. You stand, you sit, you sleep on holy ground. And so I give thanks for this, knowing that looking for a higher perspective, for a higher consciousness, to allow life to be me, to be you, is a gift. And so I give thanks for this day. I give thanks for your presence.